Well, hello guys, welcome back to another episode of Everyday EDC. My name is Tyler, and today we got a review for you of the Kizer Mini Sheepdog. Alright guys, so the Kizer Mini Sheepdog. This is a pretty cool little guy. I got this in a trade with Steve, so thank you, Steve, for that trade. I believe it was with Steve. Alright, so first, let's start off with this big hulking blade, and this blade is what makes the Mini Sheepdog the Mini Sheepdog, and all sheepdogs the sheepdog. First and foremost, you have a sheepdog, sheep's foot, which is kind of cool that you just stuck with the theme, I guess. Basically a big old cleaver style blade. This is a 154 cm. That is excellent. It has a nice flat grind that comes down 3/4 the length of the blade. And then we have this chamfered edge. It's similar to a swedge. I guess you might call it a swedge going on down here, carrying some strength further down to the end here. But then you have another swedge up top that carries some strength towards the tip. Now the tip is pretty dainty, but it's cool because you got this, you can see this line right here. It's actually carrying a lot more strength to that than it appears, like just at face value looking at that. Cool little notch here, really doesn't serve a function. A sharpening choil, which functions very, very well. It goes right up through here. You got the plunge grind going on here, and it starts at the end of the plunge grind, so it works perfectly fine there. We have a little bit of talk going on here. This is a Chris Conway inspired design, if you will, on his Sheepdog series. There you go. You got the Kizer 154 cm and a little bit of serial numbers and nomenclature, etc., etc., etc. You got this very large flipper tab here, which you will see when the knife is closed. We have a stop pin right here with some stainless steel liners, and there's a little bit of milling. Let's see if I can find. I just cleaned up this so I can do all this, and then I lost. There it is. See if I can show you guys. You guys can kind of see it on in there. Let's see. There you go. A little dusty. You can see it right in there. A little bit of milling on the show side only. As I said, stainless steel liners with some G10 overlays. It's got this peel ply style texture. It's a little bit different than that. It's kind of like almost like a little micro pattern, just probably a different style of peel ply. You have these cutouts right here, similar to what you might call a fuller, going on down here to add grip, even though you really don't feel them when it's in hand. I guess you kind of do, but it doesn't really help your grip on this. It's just kind of a design area. We have some chamfering going all the way around here with the little notch right there. Comes on down with some more chamfering into some barrel spacers back here, stainless steel. And we have the liner lock right here, and a very generic stainless steel pocket clip, but it does fit the design. I mean, it's a big hulking thing, and you got this big popsicle stick flipper or pocket clip on there. It does fit. You have this captive pivot right here, T8, T6 screws, with this really cool pivot ring right there, adding a little bit of color to this design. Overall, it actually looks pretty darn cool. That's a quick rundown. Let's get you guys some specs. I will give you some size comparisons and then kind of my overall thoughts. I'm going to stop recapping at the end of my size comparisons so you guys don't have to sit through a 15-minute long video. I realized I was being redundant. I actually considered just starting out with the specs, which if you guys think that's a good idea, just start out with the specs, go into size comparisons, and then kind of talk about the knife, let me know. So the overall weight of this guy, despite being so small, still coming in at a 3.12 ounces. That is not bad, but for the size, it's kind of a lot. But again, I mean, it's still 3 ounces. I mean, who really gives a damn? Let's get you guys overall length of this little midget. Or I should say, length challenged. Midget, is that a wrong word? All right, so we have its overall length is 6 1/4. The overall blade length's coming in at about 2 3/4, but the cutting edge is coming in just at about 2 1/2. So as you guys can tell, this thing is a very, very small knife. I forgot to mention it's on bearings, and the bearings are absolutely awesome. The action on this guy is phenomenal for such a tiny little guy, but then again, you do have a very, very heavy blade for such a little guy. speaking of the heavy blade, it's only coming in at 110 thousandths. So despite looking like a hulking tank, it's not necessarily like this obnoxious beast with a pretty thin behind the edge of 16 thousandths. I'm going to guess that this thickness is about 0.48. Let's see here. Oh, shoot. About 0.42 or 0.43. So it's going to be a little bit thinner than some knives. And the overall height at its highest point, that I'm guessing is the highest point, is about 1.4 inches high. So what that tells me is it has a really thin blade stock, it has a very thin behind the edge, it has a very thin profile in hand, but it is kind of tall. So it's kind of skinny, but tall in the pocket. Kind of, instead of a pocket brick, let's call it kind of like a pocket, like, you know, slab. You know, it's not necessarily a brick, it's just kind of like wide, right? All right. Cruising right along here. We have your size comparisons with your Civivi Brazen and your Civivi Elementum in S35VN, and I'm a little off the screen. I'm trying to play this a little bit closer to me so it works and makes more sense, but still not centered. Need to make a centering mark there. Alright, so as you can see, the Brazen dwarfs it, and so does the Elementum, and the Elementum is not a small, or not a large knife. So that kind of gives you a size comparison right there of how small or vertically lengthy challenged this knife actually is. Here is your Rat Model 1 and your Rat Model 2. Even the Rat Model 2 dwarfs this little guy in length. Not in height, but in length. I forgot to mention that the 1.4, it's almost that of a Spyderco. I mean, you got a lot of Spydercos that are sitting there at like 1.6, 1.66, 1.7. I mean, it's approaching the Spyderco. We have a wee banter. As I told you guys, I'm going to mix up the size comparisons just a little bit just to kind of keep it interesting, right? And we have your Cold Steel 8010. Obviously, the 8010 is dwarfing it. The wee banter, though, ironically, is very close to the same size. You're getting slightly more cutting edge, but ironically, well, I guess not ironically, you're getting slightly more cutting edge, but you're also getting, just full disclosure, I can get 4 fingers on the banter, and we haven't really talked about that with this guy yet. Full disclosure, you cannot get 4 fingers on it unless one of your fingers is being cut by the blade. Here is your PM2 in M390 and your Man Bug. I don't know why I grabbed that one. Like I said, I'm mixing it up, and that one entertained me to put out here. Obviously, the Kizer Mini Sheepdog dwarfs your Spyderco Man Bug, but your Spyderco PM2 dwarfs your Kizer Mini Sheepdog. All right. So, no quick recap. We're not going to do that. We already talked about it. What do I like? So, first and foremost, the action on this guy is really, really good, actually. Well, it's got a little bit of a double clutch, not really, but so the action is phenomenal, and there's no back and forth, no up and down, and the centering is damn near perfect, right? So that's a very cool thing. Second, we all love a tall, big-ass blade. I mean, we just do. It's something manly about it. You're like, yeah, I feel like more of a man despite having this tiny little guy in your hands. It's still pretty freaking sweet, right? It looks cool. The blade itself looks absolutely just manly. Second, or third, maybe even fourth, lost count, this thing's coming in at a whopping $69 on Blade HQ, and you're getting 154 cm blade steel. Well, that was totally uneventful. It was supposed to like focus, and then there was this dramatic build-up moment. So $70 for 154 cm is not bad. The only other knives that I've seen kind of consistently do like a lower price point with 154 cm is like Kershaw's and like their Kershaw launch series, like they're hitting that 154 cm. So I think that's cool that this is in that blade steel. It's a little bit different, and 154 cm is a very, very well rounded and very, you know, just acceptable. The price is cool. What do I dislike about this? The handle. I mean, yes, I get it. It's the Mini Sheepdog, and look, I have 4 fingers on it. But the way I do is it's like I'm pinching my fingers. Realistically, I don't know that I would use it like this. Realistically, I would probably use it like this, or this is like a draw cut style knife. I don't know that this is like a heavy duty guy despite having this big sheep's foot style satin finish, which I didn't add in their blade. So I really wish it was a little bit bigger, but that's why they made the Sheepdog and Sheepdog XL, right? I don't wish it was bigger. I just don't like how I can't get all my fingers on the blade or on the handle. That being said, you guys saw how I initially choked up and I'm pinched up against here to get my fourth finger on there, but you know, whatever. What do I want? I started doing this kind of segment if there's something that I really want in a knife that I don't see it has. And while this closed position looks cool, I forgot to mention that flipper tab is just freaking massive. Typical of the Sheepdogs. But what do I want? While you can see this and this looks cool, why don't we just extend this and not have such a deep finger area, right? Have it be a little bit more shallow and add about 1/8 of an inch in height to the scales. You're not doing anything else to the knife. You're just adding a little bit of height to the scales. And to me, I think I would prefer that, because once you do that, this thing's so skinny, it's like you're folded up on yourself there, you're choked. If I actually put like a cloth here and I extended it out and I tried to squeeze, it does feel better. So as far as wants go, I really would prefer if this was a little bit thicker or taller. Not necessarily thicker. Thicker is always better, and well, in my whatever. I think sometimes scales need to be about 0.5 for my comfort and preference, but it doesn't have to be necessarily thicker if you make it wider. You can kind of do one or the other or both. But for $70, the Kizer Mini Sheepdogs, actually, it's a really, really cool buy. If you're looking for a fifth pocket knife that's kind of stylish, because really, what do you need from this really, really tall blade? I mean, other than the fact that it comes down to a damn good slicey edge, you really don't need that. But it's cool. And so for $70, do it. I don't see a problem with this at all. I think everything, the attention to detail, these little fellers, G10, 154 cm, really cool looking blade shape. You got chamfering all around the edges. I just think this is overall a good knife. Now, this is not a deep carry, by the way. I didn't really talk about this pocket clip. It's not deep carry, but it kind of fits the design. I don't know that you're going to get a deep carry on this without really screwing up the ergos. That was a side note. My name is Tyler. This has been Everyday EDC. This is the Kizer Mini Sheepdog. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys stay sharp, stay safe, and have a great freaking day. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. This is my Patreon. This is my Instagram, everydayedc_77. I'm going to do a special shout out to all the Patreons: John K, Sammy, Eggs and Ham, Jason M, Dogtooth, Kaiba, Mickey, Wolf, and Captain Steve. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great freaking day.